The steady hum of the diner blended into the background of the bustling Saturday breakfast rush. Families chatted over stacks of pancakes, while the clinking of coffee cups echoed off the walls. In a corner booth, Sarah Jennings sat alone, her back pressed against the wall. Her fingers absently traced the rim of her ceramic mug, her worn jacket and faded jeans allowing her to disappear into the crowd. Just another unremarkable face in the mix. A middle-aged waitress with tired eyes approached, offering a warm smile as she refilled Sarah's cup. "You waiting on someone, hun?" she asked. Sarah gave a small nod, her voice soft. "Just my dad." Despite the warmth in her tone, the cautious way she sat spoke volumes, like someone used to being overlooked. Then, the low rumble of motorcycles outside shattered the diner's calm. The glass windows vibrated slightly as 5 burly men strode inside, their leather jackets emblazoned with skulls and flames. They scanned the room with an air of ownership, their voices loud and full of laughter as they cracked jokes at each other's expense. "Look at this place," one of them sneered, his voice cutting through the chatter. "What a small-town dump." They took the booth closest to Sarah, their boisterous laughter grating against the quiet conversations around them. One of the men, a broad-shouldered guy with a shaved head, glanced in her direction and smirked. "Hey, sweetheart," he called, loud enough for everyone to hear. "That seat taken?" Sarah ignored him, her focus remaining on her coffee as her grip on the mug tightened. "Don't think she heard you, Rick," another chuckled. Rick stood, his heavy boots thudding against the tile floor as he sauntered toward her booth. Leaning down, he invaded her space with an amused grin. "I said, you heard her." The deep voice came from the doorway, cutting through the room like a knife. The diner fell silent, all eyes turning toward the entrance. There stood a tall man with a commanding presence, his face weathered but strong. Dark sunglasses concealed his eyes, but the white cane in his hand told the rest of the story. This was her father, Tom Jennings, a blind veteran. Sarah's face softened as her father tapped his way toward her booth with confidence, his cane sweeping in practiced arcs. The bikers exchanged glances, their smirks wavering. "Morning, Dad," Sarah said, rising to guide him into the seat across from her. "Morning, sweetheart," Tom replied, his voice steady, calm, yet firm. The kind of tone that didn't need to be loud to demand respect. He folded his cane and rested it on the table, his movements deliberate. Rick, still standing nearby, let out a chuckle. "Well, isn't this cute? Daddy's here to save the day." Tom tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable behind the dark lenses. "I don't know who you are, son, but I'd suggest you walk away." The other bikers hooted, encouraging Rick. "What's he gonna do?" Rick scoffed, leaning closer. "He can't even see me." Sarah's jaw tightened. Her hand steadied against the table. "Leave us alone," she said firmly. Rick ignored her, his grin widening. "What's wrong, old man? Need your little girl to fight your battles?" Tom's lips pressed into a thin line. He didn't need to see Rick to recognize arrogance when he heard it. "I've fought bigger battles than you'll ever know, son," he said evenly. "But if you're smart, you'll sit down and enjoy your breakfast before you make a mistake." The air in the diner grew thick with tension. The waitress had frozen mid-step, and nervous whispers spread among the other patrons. Rick let out a laugh, but there was an edge to it now, a flicker of uncertainty. Sarah's fingers trembled slightly as she reached for her phone. She wasn't afraid of them. No, her fear was something deeper. She dialed a number, her voice low but steady. "It's me. I need you here. Now." Minutes stretched like hours. The tension only grew as the bikers, emboldened by the lack of immediate consequences, resumed their crude laughter. Louder this time, like they were trying to reclaim control of the room. Rick sat back down with his crew, though he continued throwing glances at Sarah and Tom. Tom sipped his coffee as if nothing was wrong, but Sarah couldn't mask the tension in her posture. She kept checking the door, her phone resting on the table like a lifeline. "Hey, sweetheart," one of the bikers called, mockery dripping from his voice. "You gonna tell us who you called? Your boyfriend?" "The sheriff." Their laughter was cut short. Engines rumbled outside. Not just one or two, but a thunderous roar that grew louder by the second. Heads turned toward the diner's windows as a line of sleek black SUVs pulled into the parking lot, their polished frames gleaming under the morning sun. The vehicles came to a synchronized stop, and the doors opened in unison. Men and women in sharp suits stepped out, their movements crisp and calculated. They weren't police, but the authority they carried was undeniable. The diner's door swung open. A man in his 40s entered, his suit immaculate, his expression unreadable. He scanned the room, then locked eyes with Sarah. "Miss Jennings," he said, his voice clipped. "Are you all right?" The bikers exchanged uneasy looks. Rick shifted in his seat, his bravado cracking. "Who the hell are these people?" he muttered. Sarah rose, shoulders squared. "They work for me." Silence fell, save for the low hum of the idling SUVs outside. Rick studied her, confusion flickering in his eyes. "You?" he scoffed, trying to mask his uncertainty. "You some kind of big shot?" Sarah's lips curled into a small, cold smile. "Something like that." The suited man took a step forward, his eyes locking onto the bikers. "Miss Jennings doesn't appreciate being harassed," he stated, his tone ice-cold. "I suggest you apologize and leave."
"Now?"
Rick's fists clenched. "And if we don't?" The man didn't flinch. "Then we'll have a problem." Sarah folded her arms. "You're outnumbered, Rick. Trust me. You don't want to test their patience." One of the bikers muttered something under his breath. Rick hesitated, his gaze darting between Sarah's team and the exit. Tom leaned back in his seat, his expression unreadable. "You've got a choice to make, son," he said quietly. "Choose wisely." Rick's bravado crumbled. With a muttered curse, he turned and stormed out, his gang following reluctantly. As the tension broke, the diner erupted into whispers. Sarah exhaled, her hands trembling slightly. "You okay, sweetheart?"
Tom asked gently.
She nodded, though her voice was soft.
"Yeah, Dad."
"I'm okay." But as she sat back down, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her expression hardening. "It's not over," she murmured. Tom tilted his head. "What do you mean?" Sarah's eyes met his, a flicker of determination shining through. "They're part of something bigger." She inhaled deeply. "And I'm going to stop it."